Thank you, councillors. Councillor Arnold just stepped out for 2 seconds to grab something from a car. So welcome all to the Uralla Shire meeting of the 24th of March 2026. The time is now 4 p.m. Prayer. Almighty God, we humbly ask you to grant your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of our Shire and Australia. Amen. In recognition of the traditional custodians, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work. We recognise and appreciate their deep connection to the land, waters and our community. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who make call Uralla Shire home. Councillors, this meeting has been webcast, live streaming. The council has been live streamed, and attendance constitutes consent to the broadcast of your image and voice. The recording will be published on Council's website and retained for the legislative required period. Anyone who does not wish to be recorded must leave before the meeting begins. Only Council may record or live stream the meeting unless prior written approval is obtained. All attendees must silence electronic devices. Participants must not make defamatory statements, or anyone behaving in a disorderly manner will be removed from under Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors, we have no apologies, and I have no applications for leave, and I also have no declarations or disclosures of interest. If anybody has any through the meeting, they can fill it out at an appropriate time. Councillors, item 7, the confirmation of the minutes ordinary meeting held 24th of February 2026. Councillor Doran. Okay, move Councillor Doran. Councillors, you'll note on the board that one of the numbering systems when we came back out of closed session was incorrect, so it's now been changed to the what's on the amendment. Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. I'd like to draw our attention to item 13.13 of the minutes, which is on page 15, I think. Sorry, I'm just getting to that. Yes. So what I'm wondering, please, is assistance for how to incorporate the word into point 1, how to incorporate the word coordinating so that it reads that Council 1 writes to Uralla Rotary acknowledging their withdrawal from coordinating future Thunderbolts Festival events and recognise their past contribution. So seeking your advice, please, on how to do that.
Yes, probably best to discuss how we might do it at a future meeting. What I'm not in favour of is changing the minutes that recognise, except I understand the issue around apostrophes and all the advertising. I do have it on good notice that the apostrophe should have been there from the start, but I'll take that as it is. Given that there was such significant debate on that item, I'm reluctant to change the actual minutes as they are. So, but I'm more than happy to have that discussion following the meeting. All right, sorry. So the letter has been sent to Rotary, so probably we need to talk to them about it.
So I have spoken to Claire Mailer, and she said that she noticed that that wording was as such on the letter, and she agreed that it was important to add coordinating in there. We don't want to be, the Rotary Club of Uralla does not want to be excluded from future Thunderbolts Festival events, and the way it's wording at the moment, we feel that that is the case, and it's not in reflection to the letter that Rotary did provide to council, which was that they were no longer had capacity to coordinate or run the event. And so I think it's an important to add coordinating into that somehow. So I'm seeking guidance on how to do it.
Maybe the best way is that we just write an amended letter rather than change the minutes. We can, well, if Mrs. Mailer wants to write to Rotary and point it out, we can then respond to that letter. That might tidy the whole thing up. And changing the minutes is just...
So can we adjust the resolution at that point? We need to adjust the resolution. That's the resolution,
because there were already interesting issues with the resolution. We'll have to come back to council with the draft terms of reference, given that there's requirement under that resolution that council staff don't get involved, and obviously I'll have to work with them to actually do up those draft terms. So I think there's some issues that we need to resolve at the next meeting. But we can deal with that one much quicker than that by writing to Rotary.
I hear what you're saying, but the event's in October, and if we don't get cracking and start organising it, then it's going to make it very tight.
You put me in a difficult position, Councillor.
Yeah,
you didn't want me to call a public meeting to determine people's interest until we had the terms of reference. So I now have to get the terms of reference, staff to work with me to draft the terms of reference so that they can come to council. So while I thought that, next month would have been a good time to have that public thing, until we actually have the draft terms of reference for council to approve, that's where it becomes a difficult situation for me. And as council staff pointed out to me, we're already running into that issue around what we do with the actual resolution. So if you give me... Yeah, so there'll be a report to the April meeting, and that'll include the draft terms of reference, and we can go from there, and we can note that Rotary still wants to be involved in that discussion. Yes.
Well, in that case, I can't move the minutes because I don't agree with them.
Okay, well, that's fine. So somebody else move the minutes, please. Councillor Burrows, a seconder, please. Any other questions, councillors? All those, sorry, Councillor Burrows, you had a question?
Sorry, it's to do with the changing of the resolution. I thought you couldn't change a resolution unless you rescinded it, or you have to do something formally to change it. It's not just a request, isn't it? I don't think you can just do that.
And that's what we're not doing. That's why it's not being changed now. Okay, thanks.
I may just speak to that briefly. So it's not in changing the intent of the resolution, though. It's just it's clarifying. The word coordinating is actually reflective of the letter that Rotary wrote. Sorry, General Manager, did you have something?
Please, Tony, stay out of it. Sorry, I'm now going to put do we have moved Councillor Burrows, seconded Councillor Philp. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Yes, you've been noted against. Item 9.1, the Mayor's Activity Report for February 2026. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Blakester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just was interested in any further details about the meeting with Phoenix Foundry that might be pertinent, but I have nothing in mind.
Phoenix Foundry spoke to us about to the acting manager of planning and the general manager about some proposals they have for doing extension work and some reorganising on the site. They had some difficult challenges to get through, so we met with their planner as well, and we wait for them to put a submission to council at this stage. There's been no further progress that I'm aware of. The general manager, that's correct, we haven't seen anything from Phoenix Foundry.
And nothing for them, so there are ongoing conversations.
Yeah, they had some issues around being close to the creek, and so we worked forward. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I have a question about the meeting on the 18th of February with New England BFMC, and I'm wondering what that stands for, please.
Oh, sorry, Bushfire Management Committee.
Will we please expand those acronyms when we put them in the report? That would be helpful.
No, thank you very much. Any other questions, councillors? We've got somebody move that Councillor Burrows, seconder please. Councillor Mailer, all those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Item 3, the mayoral minute on the Northern Tablelands Regional Organisation of Councils. If we have somebody move that, and then I'll Councillor O'Connor. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Blakester.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I note on page 8 of the papers that it states that concurrence is required, but the actual motion before council says noting. They're very different levels of decision. So my question is it concurrence, or are we being told this is a fait accompli for noting?
No, let's go back. It's not a fait accompli. This is a council decision. So, yeah.
That's really, Mr. Mayor. The comments on page 8 are taken from the draft minutes, which actually haven't been released yet for that particular meeting, and that was an outcome of the meeting itself. And I think that the term concurrence is, in other words, the agreement of each individual council that the Northern Tablelands ROC would be formed. So it's simply noting that council, each council should endorse their membership of the proposed new ROC, and so the recommendation is that Council Item 2 endorses Uralla Shire Council membership of the proposed new ROC.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor.
I move this motion. I've read and I'm following the steps, and I can understand what has happened. We were forced into a JCO, in other words, the one that was mandated on us, and we were appointed in particular areas, and that was funded. It's been inoperative for us, operative for some other ones, but inoperative for us. So my understanding of this motion is that we endorse going forward with the membership of a ROC, and that's something that I'm in favour of, a ROC which has its own peculiarities, but much better than a JCO. And then we wrote to the minister to say we want to withdraw from the JCO because we have to tell the minister he's asked us a question blank, and then we take further investigation to see if we can get the money from the JCO to the ROC, and if we can, then the formation of the ROC will be much more beneficial to us. So that's how I see my motion, or the motion I'll put forward. It says that we are open to going forward to the ROC. All of it will be dependent on other 3 councils also wanting to be in it, and that at some point in time will have to come a motion to us to actually join it. That's how I see it, and that's why I'm supporting this motion. Thank you.
I just want to clarify, Councillor O'Connor, if this recommendation gets up, then it endorses, item 2 endorses our membership. If we go to what you've just moved, item 2 of that recommendation endorses that we join the Northern Tablelands ROC. Okay, we're clear. Councillors, any other questions, please? Councillor Blakester.
Mr. Mayor, for my mind, this is a really important, really strategic proposal. This is the first I've heard of it. So my question is, what is the genesis and rationale of this proposal, and why this particular geographic footprint of councils that just so happens to be exactly aligned to electoral boundaries, very different boundaries to the previous JO? Not that it needs to be the same, But what is not visible to me is where and why has this proposal come to us. The assertion is that this is going to be beneficial. I don't know one way or the other. I'm not clear how it is significantly different to a JO. That's said a half a dozen times. This is so better, JOs are awful. But I get no clarity as to why a ROC is significantly better. And I have real concerns about the political implications of aligning a ROC with electoral boundaries that puts a lot of power into the incumbent MP. And I have real concerns about the mismatch of this geographic area with some of the most significant priorities we have as a council. For instance, the RES. This is a different geographic footprint to the RES. There are members in this ROC that have no implications with the RES. There's no alignment with water, no alignment with any Commonwealth issues, which are also significant for us: aviation, aged care, social welfare, telecommunications. So my question is, what is the strategic rationale, and why is this coming to us with no preparation or discussion by the governing body?
I outright reject your claims. That's my first point. The second point is that we've had the JO for at least 4 years that's done nothing. The JO was set up by the government at the time of the amalgamations. The JO then was forced to do audits because it was a legal entity. It was forced to do audits and ARIC, which meant that all of their money each year was spent doing that. This issue could have been just called a group of mayors getting together with Brendan Moylan, who's the local MP, hence your claim about tying into electoral boundaries. It's my fault. We're calling it, no, all of these things, yeah, and that's where we don't have to agree with any of the things that come out, and hence why the minutes. So where there's an issue around water, we deal with those people. We have an interest in water. Where there's an interest around res, we have people talk about the res. But basically, we could have called this a get-together of mayors. Now, the reason that the General Manager and I didn't attend the first meeting was because of the funeral of Lane Petrov. So while we would have been involved, I've been absolutely at the point that we need to pick those areas that are of value to us. There's no financial implication at this stage. There is a significant financial implication if you want to go through the JO process. So then there is still some funding available, we're not sure where. So for the 4 years I've been mayor, the JO hasn't functioned. We had a debate at that time whether we should be part of the JO for Tamworth or the JO for Armidale. The previous mayor went towards Tamworth. The new council then went towards Armidale and Uralla had the chairman, and the whole thing fell over through lack of any incentive to pick out those areas that are of common value to one group or to another group. There's no political thing in it. I understand what you're saying about the local member being opposed to res. That's not our view. We've communicated that, and that's not the view of Armidale, who are probably the largest contributor. So, as I say, this is we had all this discussion after the first meeting. Had we been able to attend, we couldn't. So it's now on the table. We do need to tell the Minister that we don't want to proceed with the JO, which has been, I think in their words, put to sleep or something. I've no intention of recommending to Council that we should continue that process. I thought it was flawed. There's a lengthy discussion in why I thought that. But at the end of the day, we've got nothing out of it. If this at least gets some collaboration between the mayors, and let's be really clear, across this area, we collaborate incredibly well. And I have no desire to be the odd one out with discussions with any of my neighbouring mayors, so hence this report. Councillor Mallett.
Thank you. Make an observation that probably the key critical areas that we do need collaboration, and particularly amongst these Shire organisations, is that education, health, roads, they're all key strategic importance to us and to those councils. And I think that's the important. We need to find the touchstones that are actually commonalities rather than the touchstones that are going to create disharmony. So I think strategically it's important to actually look after the interests, particularly those high level issues that are commonalities between these shire councils.
Thank you, Councillor Mailer. Be aware that this group already has a functioning correspondence with the Department of Health on the view that to try and get clarity around, particularly around the numbers and the filling in of positions within the health system. So that part has been beneficial, and again, that just needs the mayors to be cooperating with the Department of Health. But anyway, any other questions, councillors? We'll look for a seconder, please. Councillor Mailer. Moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded Councillor Mailer. The council notes the formation of the new Northern Tablelands Regional Organisation Councils, NTROC, and the proposed approach to administration and governance, endorses Uralla Shire Council membership of the NTROC, writes to the Minister for Local Government to confirm that Council wishes to withdraw from the previous New England Joint Organisation and seeks to have it wound up, and notes that further investigations will be undertaken in regard to assessing the funds of the former New England Joint Organisation. All those in favour? Note you're not supporting Councillor Blakesley. Item 12, councillors, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 2nd of March 2026. The recommendation of council receives and notes the minutes of the ARIC meeting 2nd of March 2026. Have I got somebody prepared to move that? Councillor Blakester. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Blakester, you have a comment?
Just briefly to highlight a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. Note the quarterly report from ARIC back to the elected council and the positive notes there, recognition of quality of the governance program, updates, improvements to the operational plan reporting, and no matters of concern. So I think all of that's noteworthy and positive. And then a couple of the forward pieces of work that I think are pertinent for our attention, the upcoming reporting about exit interviews and the potential relevance of that to the current staffing challenges that I note peppered through the business papers of this meeting. The ICT, so information communication technology, the internal audits and work going on there, but just to note the critical importance of that area to council and the vacancy, which we're aware of. And I was chatting with Alex informally. I understand that re-recruitment's in process, but I think we just need to keep our eyes on that area and make sure we don't create any risks or exposure during this under-resourced moment. And then lastly, noting the upcoming report to the next ARIC meeting on the post-incident reviews of the snowstorm and supercell and the potential value of that to the council as a whole. And that's it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor, you had a question?
Mr. Mayor, I just also like to note that we have a joint meeting with the ARIC on the 22nd of April.
Councillor Arnold.
The reports will then make a whole lot more, well, not that they don't make sense, but it'll become clearer what the role of ARIC is. So I welcome that rebooking of that session. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I just had a question on the in the report on page 11. at the bottom of the table there, it says key opinions or takeouts from the committee's meeting. And it notes there, so it says there, the chair noted his experience with other committees and instances where multiple drafts had been submitted to the committee for review and requested that council endeavour to streamline submissions to ARIC. And so I was just curious what that's about.
Through you, General Manager, we might ask our
through you, Mr. Mayor. The comment from the chair at the meeting was not in reference to Uralla Shire Council. He was making reference to a couple of instances in previous ARIC meetings that he is a member of, or panels that he's a member of, where multiple iterations of draft documents have been presented up to the ARIC. And the chair was saying that whilst they're happy to provide input and feedback on bodies of work that councils are doing, they are at the end of the day a review committee, not the draft readers per se, and was asking our council, along with all the other councils that he attends, to streamline the reporting through to the committee.
no other questions, councillors. If I could have a seconder, please. Councillor Arnold. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Item 13.2, the Bundarra Community Committee, the draft minutes of the meeting held the 11th of February. The recommendation of... thank you. 12.2, thanks for that, Councillor Gordon. The recommendation of council receives the draft minutes of the Bundarra Community Committee meeting held on the 11th of February 2026. Councillor Philp, you prepared to move it? Any questions?
I'm happy to move it, and I just want to note in the report there was actually no council staff that attended that meeting. I think you guys were all away, so if we can just get that changed.
Sorry, I'll just make sure I've got that information. Councillor Philp, can you just repeat that? Sorry.
Just in the report,
Yeah.
on page 12 of the business papers, it says that council staff attended the meeting, but they didn't.
Okay, can we please note that? Thank you, councillors. If no other, Councillor Blakes, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not a question, just a comment. On page 12, the very bottom section states that the community will be informed of council's decision intentions via the community committee email distribution list. I just want to highlight that list is not active at the moment. It's been something that's been discussed at the last couple of meetings. It concerns me that list is not functional because it does impede our ability to get the word out to Bundarra, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear and understood and not being relied on erroneously.
So, Councillor Blakes, is your understanding that the Bundarra community are putting this link together, or is it a task for the council?
It was a list that was built by the committee in its early days of formation, so it has been something the committee have created. But as Councillor Philp knows, a lot of the email addresses aren't working, and Jen gets a huge amount of bounce backs off that, so that needs to be fixed. Yeah.
I think it might be worth taking to the next meeting, Councillor Philp. Okay, we've got to move Councillor Philp, seconder, please. Councillor Burrows. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 12.3, the Uralla Local Traffic Forum, ULTF, minutes of the meeting held on 11th of February 2026. Recommendation of council receives the minutes of the Uralla Local Traffic Forum meeting held on 11th of February 2026 and notes the decisions of the forum. Somebody move it and then we can discuss that. Councillor Burrows. Questions, councillors? Councillor Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just noting that the Toolong Road bus stop may well not be an issue anymore because the locals spoke to the bus company, and I think that bus is now actually going to each house down the little street to pick up the kids at the bottom of their driveway. So it might be worth checking on that before we build anything on Toolong Road.
Thank you for the advice, Councillor.
Councillor Blakesley.
Mr Mayor, a couple of questions. The first one, the local member having a representative at this meeting, what's the protocol around who can attend and make representations in the traffic forum, please? And I've got another question.
Historically, for as long as I can remember, the local member, so there was the police, correct me if I'm wrong, fire and rescue, council, the Transport for New South Wales, it was probably the DMO in those days, and the local lower house, state representative. So for the last 4 years at least, Bob Barwell's been the local, so his role in a political sense would be to report back to the local member at the time. So that's part of it, but I'll get clarification from the Director of Infrastructure just if there's anybody else I missed out of that list.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you. No, that's the tasked membership, as I understand it. It's not beyond the capacity, though, of local transport forum committees, as they're now known, to invite people to come along and share their views. So it's not unknown with some committees to invite members of the community, for example, to have an issue or put in a submission to come and address the committee.
And I just realised that the bus companies, that if there was a taxi company, those sort of organisations also are able to attend. Sorry, another question, Robert?
Yeah, the issue of Bundara Road, it's fascinating to me that we raised all of these questions. We were told you're not going to get any information. And now all of a sudden there's a whole page of details. Yeah, that Bundara Road has a fatal serious injury rating of 30, which is 1,400% the New South Wales state average. We couldn't get any data out of this. We were just told the speeds are changing, it's for your own good. Just accept it. There's no review process. It's from Department of Transport, nothing to do with anyone locally. The suspicion around these processes is enormous out at Invergowrie. And I would like to know which section of Bundara Road has a FSI of 30. Is it the entirety of the road? And if it is, why is it only that short section that has been re-speed zoned? How long has that been known for? There has been no public communication about this at all. No prevention campaign, no signs going, guess what? You're about to drive on one of the most dangerous roads in Australia. None of that, and then it just changes, it's all for your own good, which is just so condescending to community. I think that's just extraordinary. So my last question is, I'll just leave all of that there because I'm not expecting anything better. What is the rationale and cost for Barbados?
The reason you've got all that additional information is because you asked staff to pursue it. They got the information for you, and then you.
I think the only reason it's there is because of what's his name going to the meeting.
Okay,
that'd be my reason of why it shifted. So my question is, what's the rationale and cost for the Barbados Corner Road safety audit and concept design, please?
I think it was committee decision. Local community raised a number of issues with Barbados Corner and effectively requested changes. The committee thought the best way to proceed with that was to get Transport for New South Wales to do a road safety audit and see if those proposed changes from community members were valuable inputs that might improve the situation. I would say on your, Mr Mayor, if I may have the discretion on the first point that you raised, when we found out with no warning, re those previous changes, our immediate reaction was to ring our contact at Transport for New South Wales, who had provided us with the advice the following changes were going to be made. And we advocated very strongly, because we had no data on why they were needed either. We pointed out that there was likely to be a significant community interest, and they would want to know why the changes were being made. And we could see no reason why Transport's position and wish to make the changes would not be significantly enhanced if they gave the information and data that they had relied on to make those changes. We received information back that that wasn't part of their process. And there was no further conversation.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Oh, you had a question, sorry, Councillor O'Connor.
In relation to the item 3, the Bridge Street parking and the proposed road surface works in Bridge Street, my question is in relation to, have we been provided any details of any change in the profile of the road, particularly between King and Wood Street, but particularly the King Street corner where there's such a huge rise from the footpath across the top to the other side. Is there any, it's been just built up over years, obviously. Are they going to modify that profile, or is it going to continue to be that unusual profile?
We might ask the group manager, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll throw to the group manager for the latest update. But at the moment, all information that were previously provided, which did not go necessarily to that, but all information really what was going to happen and the timing of it is now off the table, and Transport putting that entire contract back to the market. So we're unlikely to see any change this calendar year, is our information. I'll throw to the group manager.
The intention was, and if you look at Bridge Street, it's been resurfaced 3 times. So each time it's just gotten higher and higher in the middle, and they've stepped it in. So there is quite a large elevated hump through the middle. The intention is for them to grind that all the way back down to the sub base, which is the gravel, and then re-asphalt it. So it wouldn't necessarily change the original profile, but it would take away that exaggerated hump through the middle.
It's a difficult place to move from the corner of King Street and the highway, particularly if it's a person with a pram or seems to be more prevalent nowadays, a person with a walker to get up that. It's bad enough an able-bodied person walking up it, and particularly if you're trying to look one way, look the other, at the same time as trying to go over the other area. So it's just a difficult.
Thank you. I think we're heading forward. Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention one thing that doesn't seem to have been raised before with that Bundara Road and the issues with Pine Grove Road where it crosses. And that is that a number of community people have spoken to me about why don't they put a stop sign there. So I just thought I would throw it into the mix that I don't know if that has come up or not, but people just feel that because it's a give way, it's a cruise through into the intersection, and that putting a stop sign really could make a significant difference to driver behaviour at that corner. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? Otherwise, I'll look for a seconder, please. Councillor Mailer. The council receives the minutes of the Uralla Local Traffic Forum, ULTF, meeting held on the 11th of February 2026, and notes the decisions of the forum. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, item 13.1 is a modification. Oh, sorry. All those in favour? Yeah. Got excited. A DA. 13.1, a modification of the proposed stage subdivision lot 1 DP 1323513 131 Barleyfields Road, Uralla. The recommendation is that council approves the modified notice of consent for DA 462 of 2007-4 as per the attached amended notice of determination. Councillors will remember that this was part of what was originally Bryce Hill, and sorry, did I miss something?
No, it's just.
And yeah, you'll note on the board that there's actually a change on the numbering that went from one lot to the other. So correct the reflect the existing 101 condition. So firstly, I'll get a mover for that. Councillor O'Connor. And then I'm going to ask for questions and Councillor Doran. No, I'll get back to you.
So an email came through today with an amendment for this attachment at 11:28 today. So it's the first I saw it when I opened my emails when I sat down in the chambers. So it says that the amendments included formatting abnormalities to the version attached in the business paper, no changes to the modified condition words, only changes reflect the correcting numbering of the original conditions. Okay, I haven't read it, and I just wanted to, sort of air that out that we only just got it.
We work as hard as we can to get it as early as possible, dear Councillor Doran. Councillor O'Connor.
Mr Mayor, I move this with the note that there were a number of amendments. So for councillors' information, I came down and spoke with the planner and we went through the areas. The item that's spoken about there is on page 20 of our report or the business paper, and it shows strange numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 26, which didn't bear any relationship to anything. The right numbers are the 1, 2, 3, 4 to 12 and the areas. So that's the reason for that, the numbering.
Can you just say that more slowly? What do you say?
There it is there.
Yeah, no, I've got it. But what was your explanation?
Those were incorrect numbers. That's for some reason they were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 26 automatically, and it should only be 1 to 12.
Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. Are there any other questions, councillors? Okay. Councillor Blakesley.
It's probably irrelevant, but I just want to check. There's lots of references to the Department of Water and Energy that doesn't exist anymore. Is that something that needs to be updated, or is it clearly superseded?
Look, I'm going to ask the active manager of planning. My original thought is this wouldn't interfere with it, but I'm going to make sure I get it right. So, General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I certainly would be happy to invite the acting manager to address council on this if you'd like to come through in case there are other questions, Heather. But I will note that as it's a modification, the only conditions that are changed by the modification are those directly related to that change. So there is no process whereby you go through and update all the other conditions that certainly may have been using incorrect department terminology and the like, given the age of this particular original development application and consent. But I will hand over to the acting manager, Ms. Nichols. Thanks.
Through you, Mr Chair. I certainly concur with the General Manager's comment. A modification can only deal with the information, the variation as requested. The consent dates back 19 years. So the consent is as it was issued back in 2007. So you can't use a modification years later to go back and correct something that's now out of step. That was the correct terminology at the time the DA was implemented, and the application before us now is only those half a dozen changes. So we can't use this opportunity to go back and update something that is now historic. So it's just a note, it's just noted. The consent was issued way back in 2007. Those are the words, that is the approval at that time. The effect of this current Mod 4 is only for those matters that are before you and highlighted in red in the modified notice. Does that make sense?
It completely makes sense. My only concern is just that the proponent is crystal clear where they've got to find the relevant agency when that agency doesn't exist anymore. And it'll be somewhere in the bowels of the department I work for, I expect, but that's the challenge, yeah.
And again, through you, Mr Chair, of course, stage 1 has been released. This is just the final line lots, and the greater majority of the approval has already been acted upon, and therefore it is just a continual transition as those departments come and change. But you are dealing with a proponent who has been releasing this land over time, several decades, and so they are familiar and they do have their consultants behind them to give them that assistance and advice.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's not a big thing, but I just want to mention it. On page 19, in the middle dot point, it refers to conforming with the current Armidale Regional Council road design standards. And I've raised this before, and I understand that we use our road design standards based on the Armidale Regional Council design. However, I just think it would be good if we could just, not in this instance, but in future reports, just consider putting in something that doesn't make it seem like Armidale is the overarching authority, because that's not true. Like we use those standards, and that's fine that we do. But maybe if we could just add in conform with the Uralla Council design standards, which cover or the same of the Armidale Regional Council. You know, like someone will word that a lot better to me. But I just feel like we need to be firm in our autonomousness. We need to not show that in any way that we are coming under the umbrella of Armidale Council. We're separate. We need to be separate. And I just want to take this small opportunity to put that point forward, please.
Staff will note that. Thank you. Councillors, have we got a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Doran. Councillors, I'm going to ask you all to have to stand up for those that support the recommendation that the Council approves the modified notice of consent for DA 462-2007-4 as per the attached amended notice of determination. Thank you, councillors. Decision. Councillors, for those that wanted to know the history of it, this was Dr. Batt's vision for Uralla. So when you look on page 19, she was going to have a village green at the top, which is just, she only saw part of it, unfortunately. And the other part was the water investigation was done by Ron Wright and Associates that was presented to, as you say, not the current water people. So that was part of the creek plan. Councillors, moving on to item 13.2, the development application DA 61 of 2025 for 5 Hill Street, alteration and additions for existing child-based childcare facility. You'll notice I'll get to the recommendation that council waives the application of the section 712 development contribution charge for DA 61 2025 as the development is located on council-owned land, and 2, approves the development application reference DA 61 2025 for alterations and additions to the centre-based childcare facility upon lot 25 DP 1129476 and lot 4 section 26 DP 759022 being land known as 5 Hill Street, Uralla Shire, subject to the conditions of consent in the attached notice of determination. Got somebody prepared to move that, please? Councillor Blakeson? No.
An amended.
No, I've got to move it. I've got to move it from Councillor Blakeson, so you'll have to sit quietly, please, Councillor. Councillor Blakeson, you have a question?
One question, Mr. Mayor. Very clear proposal. I'm supportive of it. I just want to ask, in terms of waiving the fee, if I could ask for an updated timeline of when the council can expect for want of a better term, the in-kind support reporting that we've been talking about for a while, to be able to look across the totality of where council provides support like this request before us now, so that we can get a comprehensive view. So I just want an update on the time frame for that, please.
I'll get a separate answer to that. The reason for the recommendation for this is actually it ends up in council's building, it's on council's land. Yes. So hence the way it's been run. Normally the acting manager of planning would be able to determine it if it wasn't council building. So it also goes to where we waive annual rates, etc. on the basis that, so if that's part of the cost. But the second part of your string, I'll ask the general manager to respond.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Bankstown, councillors, we have a workshop with you scheduled for the 14th of April to bring you the draft budget for 26-27, and in that session we'll be talking about exactly that issue. We're endeavouring to capture all of those donations and sponsorships and discounts on a single screen, so we can discuss those with you and council can make a decision when we bring the budget to you for endorsement prior to exhibition. So we'll be seeking your advice on that at that time. Thank you.
Right, Connor?
Mr Mayor, I will vote against this, mainly on the point one. I acknowledge that it's on council land. However, it's my understanding, although I don't have the proof, because section 7.12 replaced another section which we don't have the records of. But my understanding is that when the competitive facility of TJ did their modification to bring it up to a child caring area, it actually had to pay the DA fees. Now, I also believe that whilst it's council land, the DA provides a potentiality for the childcare centre to increase from 39 to 49 places without any improvement or any additional staff, which will mean that it has the capacity, although it's not taking it up at the moment, it has the capacity to have future increased income through this development. I'm totally in favour of point 2. I am totally against point 1 for procedural fairness between competing businesses within our area. Thank you.
I would argue strongly against that. It's a community-based facility. It's been a community-based facility for 40 years. They're basically government funded and make it as low fee structure as possible to encourage as many from the community. It's not a long day care centre, so I don't believe they're competitive. So I will argue against yours interpretation of that, Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I'm also wondering about the waiving of the DA. Couple of things. I remember when we used to list the donations that we provided. So Thunderbolts Festival got $12,000. I easily remember that off the top of my head. The Uralla Preschool was in there with the donation, and so then there was a list of other things as well. I remember also that in our fees and charges, we charge them like the rates or the rent. There's a charge, and I remember... So
let's go back to the April, the General Manager pointed out there'll be a workshop that will include all of those, because you're right, for as long as I can remember, we've shown what would be the rates and charges for the land has been waived by council. Now, a longer term discussion would be whether, if this councillor Connor believes may occur in the future, if it becomes a fund-making institution, then we should review what we do. But at the moment, it's a community-based facility, doesn't offer long day care. But all of those will be in that workshop that we have on the 14th. Yeah, so those will all be listed, including that.
Thank you. So my question, though, goes to the construction certificate and whether that $7,368 is listed as the total contribution, whether that is purely, like, to use the term revenue raising, or does that actually cover staff time? I'm wondering if that then would cover staff time and effort for the issuing of the DA, and whether our waiving that is actually providing further in-kind support because we're actually providing free staff time.
I think that you're exactly right. It does provide additional free staff time. So there's no debating that question. Yeah. So we'll provide that detail. Councillors, any other questions? I've got prepared to second the motion. Thank you, Councillor Mailer. Again, a division decision, and Councillor O'Connor, if you wish to vote against one, you'll have to vote against them all. You can't do one, so you won't be supporting it. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So all those stand up that support the application, please. Thank you, councillors, and we note Councillor O'Connor's decision not to support the recommendation. Thank you, councillors. Item 13.3, the draft asset management plan for plant and equipment. The recommendation that council endorses the draft plant and equipment asset management plan for public exhibition for a period of 28 days for the purpose of seeking community feedback. 2, receives a further report on after the completion of the exhibition period should any submissions be received prompting material change. And 3, adopts the draft. Take out buildings, please, and put in plant equipment. Plant equipment asset management plan should no submissions prompting. Yeah, thanks. Material changes be received. Somebody prepared to move it? Councillor Burrows. Questions, councillors? We have our asset manager here. Councillor Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor. This document has an enormous body of work behind it, and I wish to thank the staff for this. I read it 4 times. The first time I was grumpy as can be. When I finally read it the 4th time, I've decided that if I hadn't read it in full, taking time to absorb the many, many details, it has the capacity to fuel paranoia due to its wording around the necessity of an SRV. But by the time, which is why I kept reading it, by the time I had read it properly, I realised, and I would advise those in the community who read this, to consider it very carefully and to understand that it is a very good working document heading us toward a solution, not as I initially thought, bringing up a whole lot of problems that hadn't been solved. But it took me, it's a very big document, and it did take me a while to work out that it was not quite as negative as I originally thought. Thank you.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too appreciate the work that's gone into putting this together. I wasn't quite so terrified, I must say. I was okay about it, but certainly it hints at, or it says that SRV is required to continue operations, basically. I'm wondering on page 176, which is actually Appendix B. So I just am curious if we can have an explanation, please, as to why there's no increase in the forecast costings at all in operations or 177, which is maintenance. So they're both, yeah, I mean, maybe there's a simple explanation, but it looks like from next year right through to 2036, it's going to be exactly the same operational forecast and exactly the same maintenance forecast, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have the asset manager here tonight to speak to us. If the director is happy to throw to the asset manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm always happy to throw to the asset manager. I think there's a simple answer to it. I'll have a go, but I'll throw to the manager as well. For ease of laying out the next 10 years, we work on current dollar. figures. And then each year, when we redo the budget, each budget, we add the CPI increase there. And so if you, to try and predict what the CPI increase is year on year for 10 years, it starts to get a little bit spongy. So we work in current dollar figures. So those figures you're looking at will be the figures if there was no CPI increase. If there's a CPI increase, we respond to whatever that is. So next year, for example, it may be 4.5%, not the planned 2.5%.
Third explanation, and so I'm happy to go with that. So I guess it'd be good just to write that, because the way it says is it's forecasting in 2036, it's going to be exactly the same as where it is now, and that explanation's not in there. And so it looks like we're not that organised, because we're just thinking it's going to be the same, which it's not.
Does it use current dollar figures?
Meaning that in this document, it just doesn't look very competent. And I don't mean that terribly negatively. It's just like we're living in a bubble and it's not going to change. That's all.
Thank you.
Sorry, did the manager have anything?
Councillor Blakester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note, like one of them, so I similarly to Councillors Burrows and Doran, commend the staff on the work. I particularly like the amount of data that underpins this. It's really clear for me, and I do like data and evidence base, and I really like how clearly the shortcomings and issues and priorities are flagged. So personally, I like cards on the table. The question I want to ask, it was around the obvious stress point is not the first year of asset renewal. There's a higher level of asset renewal in 26-27 financial year, but the next 2 years where it's clearly lower, yet the remark is made that there's a surplus for the first 6 years that's being used elsewhere. So I'm confused about, so that's on page 126 of the attachments, that statement about a surplus for 6 years. I can only see 2. So I just wanted some clarity on that. And my other question about this specific issue is broader than the PEMP, is what other areas of council's business are being prioritised such that the PEMP is being deprioritised, because we're being asked to make a decision to deprioritise this area, but normally in my experience you have a holistic view to say, well, we want to prioritise here and deprioritise there, whereas we're being told we're deprioritising this, but I can't see what the strategic rationale, the opportunity cost, etc. of that is. So that's my first question, Mr. Mayor.
I think we need to look at the plant and equipment asset plans as self-funding business unit. So the issue is that if you have a grader and it works out that your cost of running, including replacement and maintenance and fuel and everything else, is $150 an hour, that's what you charge your actual works program for. So the challenge for the asset manager and our workshop manager is to ensure that that's what occurs. So then they can then use that to determine whether an item of equipment is worth owning, or whether we should be hiring it, leasing it, whatever the choice is. Or in some cases like the Bundara backhoe, where you clearly can't make a profit, you're only going to run it a couple of 100 hours, but you need to have one because there's no other local one available. So those decisions, it's almost like a standalone unit, and the staff, to their credit, that's how they've been running it. So the issue is that not so much deprioritising as just recognising that, unlike, say, bridges or roads, where you don't write back what it costs you to the organisation. So if I use a classic example, Underwood was charging themselves $5 an hour for graders when they were amalgamated. They clearly weren't replacing any equipment. So the issue is making sure that balance is kept. As I say, congratulate the staff on providing.
Yeah, and I think that financial principle is excellent in my view. So would it be fair on my part to assume, but I want to validate this, that the 2 years of lower renewal of equipment, there's essentially a 6-year impact of that by delaying the renewal of assets in years 2 and 3 of this plan, that there's a tail effect of that. Is that what the 6 years?
Who wants to answer? Why don't we go to answer?
Well, I'll throw to the asset manager on this one, but I'll back up if I need.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. There's a reduction in those 2 years. This plant's funded from the general fund as well, along with a lot of other things. And when we got the LTFP together, it was recognised that we can withdraw some capital from plant and still be able to function. Plant still be able to function with minimal increase to maintenance and operation costs. The 6-year figure, it's plain in those first 2 years because it's almost cut in half the capital. In the other 2 or 3 years, it's minimal. You probably can't see that within, but into year 7, that's when we've got a full, if that explains.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sharing in the chorus about the magnificent work done in this document. I've expressed it personally to the staff member concerned. Now, I've also made several suggestions, very much along the lines of Councillor Burrows. Some of the wording within the document is factual. All of those items are factual. However, some of them need explanation about being factual. And for instance, on page 126, there's the words "without intervention," and it goes on to say these short-term items would escalate. And I've made the suggestion that the words "without the intervention of the SRB" and go on. Then that makes it that the person reading in isolation will not be, because the 3 paragraphs before it says what the current situation is and how it's not accessible. And the next paragraph or section says contingent on the successful implementation of the SRB. But if you read only that one paragraph in the middle of it, at the bottom of the page, then you get the right information but the wrong intention. So that's one. The other item that I've suggested to is that.
So just hold up a second, Councillor. If we approve the recommendation, it will go on display for 28 days, and it's probably best you list your concerns for staff.
I did. I have. I'm just explaining to councillors.
All right. So
what I have suggested in case it actually gets done in that particular way. The other one is the figure 513 on page 149, which shows the correct situation for condition 4 for 84 of the 168 items of plan. But within the words below, it says, notably, 72% of these assets consist of small plant. And my suggestion is, so that it is more accurate, that we have 2 condition assessments, one of the major plants and one of the minor plants, so that condition 4, which shows 61 items of the 76 small items being in code 4, and the minor number of the major plants in code 4. And it's not, this is not incorrect, but it's misleading. So That were my two items. I also suggested. Yes, I know. I have two coming. Yeah. Is that and it's in relation to 5.1.3.
What page?
The 147, the one before, where they list the number, the amount, that it would be germane to identify the fact that the value of our plant and equipment is 50.7% of the gross amount of carrying in 2025, down 9% from 2014 when it was 59.6. So that it indicates that we've been living on the fact for 9 years. And now we need to do something about it and reverse that. Otherwise, it's absolutely wonderful.
Councillor Doran, thank you, Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering about private works. We used to do lots of private works, and over the years that's kind of become less of a thing. So I'm wondering if that's, something that we would get back onto the radar, like for making income.
I think that the issue for the staff is that they're fully extended, so private works has always been a secondary issue. So while we've done a couple of major works previously, and maybe if they're up the back of one of the roads and there's a fellow that wants an hour's grading, maybe they'll do that as well. But council's made no effort to go into the private works area to expand our business. Part of that goes to the issue around what we charge for plant and equipment. So the last thing we want to be doing is undermining people that have already got their businesses, given that it's secure. So that's the balance at the moment. Very little, as I say, private works. If that changes in the future, but with the 3 grading crews, they're probably, I'm sure the Director of Infrastructure will tell me they're flat out and don't have a possibility of doing other works. And yeah, so that's the rationale behind why it's been reduced. And I think at the last meeting, the QBRS recognised that we reduced the income from that.
Interesting that you say, not wanting to be competitive against private contractors and stuff. Makes me think about the res coming in and, when there's going to be lots of works happening and whether that's, there'll be less contractors available to do works and whether that might be something into the future that we could consider.
I think that staff got lots of challenges, fuel not the least of it at the moment. Sorry, Councillor Blakeson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just come back, the other part of my earlier question was what is being prioritised out of the general fund in contrast to this area being deprioritised? I didn't get clarity on that bit, please.
Yeah, I think councillors will get a clearer view when they get the upcoming budget. Is the question more, are there other asset management plans being prioritised with that money?
Nothing in specific, only just that point I made about having a strategic view, because there's obviously implications that are very clear in this AMP as to the consequences of not renewing in line with the
predictions.
Condition. And so I think it's beholden on us as the elected body to be confident that the value proposition of de-emphasising investment here is justified against some other value, but I don't know what that other value is.
Just as a guide, it's not a single thing. It'll be spread through the budget, and it'll probably be a good discussion to have when that crops up for.
Just one other thing. This is just a comment, and I'm going to come back to it a few times in the papers. On attachment page 143, there's a population figure for the Shire.
I'll put a big red line through that.
It's the first of 4 population figures in the papers this meeting.
No, we have to get rid of
this
that.
one is quite a good population figure. It's right up there, 6971. It's in fact the highest of the 4. But it then goes on to say there's a predicted 21.6 decrease percentage decrease in population over the next 20 years, and no, in any way, shape or form am I directing this comment at the asset manager. It's more, I wonder whether that's the most current data, and I also wonder what our point of truth is for our population figure, given that there are 4 separate populations that we're going to cover over the next hour.
We might go to the detailed work we had from our consultants as a general guide, because as you say, the figure on page 25 in front of me is not defendable. Sorry, thanks. Councillor Mailer?
I accept that this is business as usual, but when I read the document, I looked to risk and what the risks are going forward for business as usual. And, you know, my feeling is that we need to actually look at stranded assets, electrification of the equipment going forward. My understanding is that excavators, the 5th generation battery excavators and front end loaders are coming out with 14 hours run times. So electrification of our fleet is probably doable now in terms of servicing, and the cost to the council for electrification significantly drops. It drops from, and the risk that we're running is that fuel prices will stay at $3+ a litre, going forward. That's now 7 times the cost of electrification of these vehicles. So we're currently looking at 6th generation batteries, solid state batteries, which have got a charge time of 90 seconds. All of a sudden, this equipment changes dramatically, and if we operate business as usual, we end up with stranded assets into the future. And so when I looked at the risk and risk analysis of this report, what I was looking at or looking to is to say, hang on a second, what are the risks here in terms of fuel, business as usual, in terms of diesel and diesel consumption and fossil fuel consumption, and what's our transition or what's our exit point to electrification going forward. Now, electrification may be only one of the answers. Obviously, there's other fuel options out there. Hydrogen is another one of those fuel options that's likely. And I know Toyota's bought into hydrogen being the answer to their strategy going forward. But what I'm seeing here is a business as usual, and I don't think business as usual in the current environment, and with a jump in 50% cost in fuel now, and our operational costs going, significantly going higher. Business as usual doesn't actually fit our model. So where's our strategy for the transition, and where's our strategy for not ending up with stranded assets? Because we can't actually sell them because no one wants to buy them because they're too expensive to actually operate. Anyway, so that's what I was looking for. Admittedly, there's a power of work here, but I think that we need to actually look at the risks that are associated with business as usual in the current environment, and understand the technology that's coming at us. The 5th and 6th generation battery technology for electrification will be a game changer, and is a game changer currently in terms of how we actually might manage our assets. That's my comment.
Yeah, thanks for that. And again, I would suggest, can you just pass that on to the asset manager for his consideration as part of the 28-day review? The other part is that in our operation plan, we've acknowledged that we do need to look at the electrification. Some of that comes down to what power is actually available at the depot, and as you say, some of that might, if the batteries have improved, maybe that process will improve. But that's a task set out in the operation plan for the staff to do and where we had our workshop. So, but the rest of it, I think that makes a fair discussion for the asset manager to consider with the director. So thank you for that. Councillors, any other questions? I've got moved by Councillor Burrows. A seconder, please. Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Thank you very much, councillors. Item 13.4, major projects and capital works infrastructure. Sorry, I'll go back. I should read that, the recommendation. The council endorses the draft plant, equipment and asset management plan for public exhibition for a period of 28 days for the purpose of seeking community feedback. Receives a further report after the completion of the exhibition period should any submissions be received prompting material change, and drops the draft plant and equipment asset management plan should no submissions prompting material change be received. Councillors, can we please note that if you do find any other information, whether it be issues raised by Councillor Mailer or issues raised by Councillor Blakester or those that have been brought up by Councillor O'Connor, please pass them on to the staff so that they're a chance in that 28 days. So we're part of that community. Thank you. Councillors, moving to item 13.4, the major projects and capital works infrastructure and development. The recommendation of council notes the infrastructure works update as of February 2026 and notes the number of projects have been identified as high risk due to external market constraints and funding delivery timeframes, with mitigation strategies actively being implemented. Through your General Manager, might get an update from the Group Manager just how we're going with that mitigation of those.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. We did have an update to the last council meeting, so there has been a lapse of time and there's been some progress. So over to the Group Manager. Thank you. Your item.
Item 13.4. What I'm seeking is an update on those mitigation strategies and how they're working and how we're going with funding those projects.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mitigation strategies actively being implemented. So we were previously, and you notice that from this meeting to last meeting, some of those items have reduced from medium to low risk. The mitigation strategies we're actively looking at is potentially changing our position on whether we complete some of these works or whether we go to contractors. What that means is that there will have to be a change to our capital works program. The example there is the King Street, Maitland Street roundabout. Ideally, we've got a detailed design so that we could package it up in a detailed scope of works and give it to a contractor to complete the whole thing, which would be ideal. But given that we're struggling to find contractors to respond to emails, we're looking at potentially changing that, passing the whole lot over to a contractor and doing what we can. Potentially it could be early stormwater works, could be curb and guttering changes, it could be little bits and pieces like that. It makes it messy and it makes it harder. It would be a lot easier if the whole package was just done with a contractor and, you know, at arm's length. But as soon as we start getting involved, then you start inviting risk around whose scope is that in and whose scope is that in, etc. So it's not something we want to do. It's something we might have to do, just given the time pressure of these grants as well that need to be completed by end of financial year. Other mitigation strategies are speaking to the grant bodies early, letting them know that we're in a position where we may not be able to complete these works, not for lack of trying. It's really up to the fact that the market is just completely dead. A lot of the contractors we're seeing are being sucked into inland rail projects out at Narrabri. And as Councillor Doran noted earlier, it's only going to get harder once the res really kicks off and trying to find these contractors to do, dare I say, little bits and pieces, but in the scope and size scale difference of the res, no one's really going to want to do a small roundabout. We are speaking to alternative councils or neighbouring councils to see if they wanted to do the works because they're a bit more geared up to do this size of job. We're yet to hear back. So yes, it is challenging at the moment, and even just doing small little projects is challenging. Even more so because no one really wants to do a small little job. They want something that they can turn up, do 3 months work and then leave. But yeah, that's the landscape of the construction industry at the moment. If anyone's trying to renovate their house, it even goes right down to the domestic market. So it's not easy at the moment. So you will see that one of the King Street, Maitland Street roundabout is on this as a high risk project for that reason. The design has been completed. We haven't approved the construction design, so that's sitting there ready to go. We just don't have anyone available to build it. And the Uralla Creek catchment project, just touching on that, I got some project pricing back from the market on Friday. We have a budget within that grant of $350,000, and some of the projects, of the 4 projects that make up this Uralla Creek catchment project, some of the contractors are forecasting it to be $1.9 million. So you get figures like that come through and you just sit there and go, either the market's just obviously completely just saturated with work, they can charge whatever they want, or the grants that we're getting from the state government are just woefully too small. One or the other, probably both. But what that does mean is, again, we've got to go back to the funding body and either say, look, can I ask for more money, more time? It would be great if someone just came in at the right figure for once and we were able to sign them with the line, but that's not the reality with these two projects, which is why they're on the high. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, probably elaborated a bit too more than I needed to on that, but hopefully that gives everyone a sense of, I guess, where we're at with the with some of our internal projects.
Questions, councillors? That's a wonderful idea. No, would you like to move, Councillor Doran? No. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Any councillors want to ask questions? Councillor Blakesley.
Two questions, Mr. Mayor. The first one just follows on from those challenges. My question is, if we could get a status on water availability. That's flagged there. It's obviously becoming constrained, and just wondered what the implications are of that for the works program, both now and into the near future. And then I've got a second question after that.
Did you want?
When it says water availability, are you talking about in terms of for the projects themselves or for the dam itself?
No, project.
Yeah, so when the teams are out in the remote areas, they utilise the local creeks, etc., for their water carts, so they can get the right water moisture content into the road mixes. So when they're compacting it compacts to the right level. What we're finding is that all those creeks are running dry. So it's and also it'd be irresponsible to take more than you should from those creeks that are quite low as well. So water availability is a concern, but what it really means is that our water trucks are having to drive further. But then we compound that with $3 a litre diesel prices. It's another consideration that the civil team have to take on when they're planning their works. So the water availability is separate. In this report, it's separate to our water availability as a Shire. It's more so just noted that those smaller tributaries and creeks are mostly gone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Group Manager. And then second question's about the Uralla Creek catchment project, and particularly breaking the work into phases 2 and 3. So the concern that I want to ask about is any of the works in phase 2, by separating out the rehabilitation into a separate phase, my concern is about any of those works negatively impacting on the habitat ecological values of the creek, and the risk that if they're done in sequential rather than concurrent phases, that has ecological impacts and potential risks if we don't get to phase 3, particularly money-wise. So I wondered if some assurance could be given about that, please.
Very yes, Mayor. So the phases aren't necessarily sequential except for phase 1. So phase 1 of this project was a detailed report from a consultant, and that broke down into phase 2 and 3. Phase 2 was the civil works and phase 3 was the creek works. They're not, phase 2 and 3 aren't necessarily interlinked or sequential. So there were 4 discrete projects involved with the civil. There was Maitland Street, Salisbury Street, Plain Avenue and Rowan Avenue. And all of those related to the catchment coming basically from the golf club down to the creek. And what the report identified was that we have an undersized civil capacity to maintain the current Q100 storms. So we need to increase our civil capacity and taking it to the creek. The creek project itself was really looking at what happens when we do get a flood. And as we all know, it floods in our typical spots here, but back in 2019, I think we had a flood at the actual crossroads here. The report identified that the creek is so full of flora, so full of reeds and silt and things like that, that it's artificially stopping the flow of water and intensifying the flood. So the civil project and the creek project are linked, but not in terms of the works, and they can happen separately. What this report's actually done is it's given us, I guess, a guideline as to what we need to do down the track, so then we can forecast that into our LTFPs and AMPs and things like that. And if any further grants come up, we've got a project ready to go, which would be fantastic. So I guess to give you some assurance, I'm looking to do the Creek project, irrespective of whether I do the civil works, and one won't affect the other. Ideally, it'd be good to do the whole lot, but 1.9 million for other work.
Councillor Arnold.
And through you, I just wonder, given the interest that there's been in the Uralla Creek project and the consistent community questions about that, I wonder what the plan is to keep them informed, the questioners, about where this is up to and what might and might not be going to happen.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll
hand that one over to the Director, who's very keen to answer.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Can I answer it in the broader scope? Just about every project we do has what we might term key stakeholders in the community. We are slowly getting better at identifying where we've got key stakeholders and finding ways to communicate the appropriate information they might be looking for to feel comfortable that we're not environmental vandals or doing the wrong things in the wrong places. This is another one of those. There's obviously a very strong group of interested parties out there. We've just got our new communications officer. We have another position that's been here for a long time that is helping us out with communications as well. And so my response would be this sort of information that you've just asked about directly, but plus a whole range of other information of a related nature. We're building capacity to do that better than we have. So does that satisfy? We're headed in the right direction is how I would put all that together.
The intentions.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a comment, and it's not meant as a criticism at all. I just want to put that out there. But I just am wondering if maybe we're like taking on too much. Like I'm looking at page 70 in the Uralla Creek Catchment Project section of the report on dot point 3, where it says about that I'll read the whole thing. Proposed early works packages that would alleviate the pressure of completing all works by 30th of June were not able to be released due to staff capacity for developing, leasing and delivering out of sequence works. And then on page 71, just also to the second paragraph, sort of in the middle-ish section. So under King Street and Maitland Street roundabout, second paragraph, the design for the roundabouts completed, positioning the project to transition to the construction stage. However, the project's been elevated due to high market constraints and resourcing challenges. So my question is just really, are we just taking on a bit too much? Have we not quite got the staff? Like, are people trying to just do a bit more than we actually have capacity to do? Is that, and then is that causing a strain then, and then greater stress when things are not completed due to lack of, or not able to be progressed due to resources? I'm just concerned about managing the staff resources through that, because there seems to be indications that that could be an issue.
I think two comments with that. One is that obviously the staff probably discuss this once a week about what their capacities are. The other issue is that, as the group manager brought it, if we were able to get competitive contract offers, then the life of the officers might be made easier. But I think, taking on board your comments, they do need to work that on a weekly basis, and I'm sure they do.
Say no sometimes, like that we can't do a project because we just don't have be realistic about that, and especially in the face of an SRB, like this is what we need to do. is what we can and can't do. And if we can't do it, well, then that's it.
Thank you for that. Councillors, I have moved by Councillor Doran as seconder, please. Councillor Burrows, the council notes the infrastructure works update as of February 2026 and notes that a number of projects have been identified as high risk due to external market constraints and funding delivery timeframes, with mitigation strategies actively being implemented.
And one more thing. Point one is that we're noting the works update as of February, but the works update is actually March. Sorry, I meant to mention it a couple of times.
We can't, they would have given their latest information when they wrote the report. We haven't got to the end of March, so that's why that's written that way.
So are we happy that, like, are staff happy that it's only February and it's not March? Because March is the report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the report is as at February. It's the same as with our finance reports. We report on the end of the previous month because we will prepare these reports in advance for the agenda. So it's the most current information at that time.
I don't disagree with that, but why haven't we got a report that's aligned with the report itself is March? Like, I hear what you're saying and I understand, and I would have thought it'd be February, but the report itself says as at March 2026. All the information we're talking about is actually March. Happy to make it March.
I think I wrote this report on the 12th of March. So, I mean, we can change it, but it wouldn't be accurate because we're not even at the end of March, and the report was written a week and a half after February finished. So we take our completion of our works at the end of the month, and we do our financial position and things like that, and this is the report as at the end of February.
I don't disagree with that, and I totally appreciate that. So could we get a report that matches with, like, can we get the attachment, the actual information that matches with the report? Do you see what I mean? Like, they just don't match.
We can do that.
I'm very happy for it, and it makes sense that it would just be to the end of February. But what we've got there is March. Anyway, it doesn't affect, anyway, whichever way you want to go with it, but I just would suggest that it'd be better if they lined up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will align for future reference. The report comes to you in March, but the data is pretty much collated on the February
and that's the
results
on page 183. Councillors, all those in favour, please. No, we'll change the addition attachment. Thank you, councillors. Council item 13.5, the 3 site-specific Crown land plans and management. And thank you to Mrs. Westbrook for sending out those track changes for councillors. The recommendation, council notes the submissions received during the public exhibition period and the amendments made to the draft plans of management, and adopts the amended plans of management for Bundarra Downs Reserve, Goswick Road Reserve and Racecourse Lagoon Reserve. Somebody prepared to move that, please? Councillor Mailer, thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Blakester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've got a couple. My first question, on page 75 of the agenda and the report with the plans, the statement is made that the management maintenance activities in the plans will be factored into the long-term financial plans. So will be in the future tense. So my question is, what of all of the actions and work that are outlined in the 3 plans of management, what of that is in the current approved budget, operational plan, workforce plan, etc.?
Thanks, Councillor. There's been significant internal debate at staff level about that exact thing. I don't want to close the door totally, but I'd respond very little. because of council's financial situation. I read through the exact wording in all three of those plans, looking for the answer to that question. To what extent are we promising to deliver work, I guess is the key question. And because I think that there's a single sentence that's missing from all the plans, which is subject to budget considerations. So at the moment, if you're talking today, pre-SRV, the rest of it, there wouldn't be $10 to spend on those assets. That would be prioritised over anything else we're doing. So my answer to your direct question is I would not think there is anything in the LTFP that currently commits money to any of those three or any other plan of management. The internal work was generated by a very similar question with previous plans of management. So I think if those plans of management were still open for review and comment, they're not, they've been out, I'd be adding a sentence saying all those things. And when I read the plan, we're not actually committing to do anything. We're committing that if we do anything, it'll be these types of things that are consistent with the purpose of the reserve, etc., etc. But it's all subject to future budget considerations. If we've got the money, that's where we'd spend it. So I'm not sure that is a satisfactory answer to your question. That's probably the answer I've got, as we said.
I think honesty is the only way to work. I think it's extraordinary from a governance point of view to ask the governing body to approve something for what purpose? What is the purpose of this plan? How are these plans not misleading the community into thinking and expecting that these will be done? Why else plan? It also goes to the questions on notice I asked at the 28 October meeting when these plans were presented in draft form, which I haven't got responses to yet, which are what are all the annual biodiversity checks, annual evaluations, current ecological monitoring that this plan says are done. I want copies of all of those for historic years. So perhaps that's why I've still got those outstanding questions on notice. But I think it's highly misleading, and I'm not saying that to you personally. I think that is an organisational issue and problem. And as this council knows, the ecological areas are the ones that I keep asking these questions about. It's not a core responsibility of council, though being manager for these areas of Crown land is a core responsibility, at least on paper. So that really concerns me. And things like in the Racecourse Lagoon Reserve Plan, there's that concept plan in Appendix 2 that gives this grand vision, but that grand vision's been sitting there for, I don't know, a decade, 15 years. It's just misleading. It creates a false impression in the community, and I know I'm not the only elected councillor that has many community members come and raise environmental issues with them. It's very difficult to give them comfort. And then the last thing I'll say is that I still am concerned, and I did raise this in my submission, in the Bundara Downs Reserve, section 3.6 I think is still inaccurate, that it says the land does not possess a significant geological feature such as a watercourse, but in the very same plan in section 5.7.2 it says, which is a fact, that part of the area is a river terrace adjacent to and comprising part of the Guida River. And then secondly, in that Bundara Downs plan, there's a statement in section 4.3.3 that talks about Bundara School constructing 6 seats for the site. I asked in my submission, is that current? Are they really doing that? It seems to me that's probably a legacy thing, who knows from when. So there's a few little inaccuracies there as well that concern me. But my main concern is I thought the core of governance around plans and plans being approved is that they will be implemented and that the staff are then accountable for their implementation, as is the governing body. That's not possible, obviously, with these plans, and I'm not clear or confident that the long-term financial plan that we have adopted, that does include the SRV, is going to be any different to the answers we've just heard, which worries me as well.
Thank you, Councillor Blakeson. Any other questions? Councillor Mallett?
Just want to raise page around 33 of the attachments, page 32 of the Bundara Downs Reserve. It refers to regular NIWA inspections.
Yeah, I just need to, I'll go back to, which page was that, Councillor Mallett? Sorry. Councillor Philp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I picked up on that too, Councillor Mailer. It is in an attachment note from a community meeting that was held in 2011, the reference to NIWA. And then there's another reference that there had been a plan amended in 2016, but there's nothing in the document trail kind of thing that had been amended. And then the last consultation looks like it was in 2018, but again, there's no reference to that in this. So I think there just needs to be some kind of update in there, particularly the reference to NIWA, but other things that have been actually referenced in here, but there's no evidence of it.
Councillors, before we go any further, I'm going to ask that we don't approve these today, that they go back out for councillors to send in their comments, please, and we make those adjustments that have been recommended by the various staff, by the councillors, and the staff get a chance to bring it back in a month's time. So I move that we lay this on the table for a month. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Doran, second to Councillor Marler. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Connor, you happy with that? I didn't see your hand. Okay.
So who was the second for Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councillor Marler. Councillors, the State of the Environment Report order item 13.6. The recommendation that Council receives the draft State of the Environment Report for 2022 to 2025, places the draft report on public exhibition for a period. Oh, sorry, yeah. Council. Okay, thank you. Council receives the draft State of the Environment Report 2022 to 25, places the draft report on public exhibition for a period of 28 days, receives a further report following the exhibition period should submissions be received, and authorises the General Manager to finalise the report for publication should no subsequent submissions requiring amendment be received. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Burrows. Questions, councillors? Is that a half?
I was hoping someone else might talk. Look, Mr. Mayor, I'll put comments on email on this one, given that it's going up for public exhibition. My overall concern, and this might be one of those legacy maturing systems issues, is there's very little quantitative data in here. There's a bit of trend data for what, well, for instance, like it'd be great to have trend data around waste recycling, contamination, dumping, for example. There's just not data. There's a reference to fire-related incidents in a 2-month period, but this report is for a 48-month period. There's very general motherhood type statements about working with stakeholders on partnerships, but there's nothing specific in there. There's a couple of projects that I think, market to death, but it just leaves you wondering about what the real substance is. The second population figure for the night pops up on page 426. We've lost 471 people at this point in the evening, but don't worry, it's going to come back up again. And then lastly, I have a concern about some really big ticket issues that aren't being flagged. So the RES, I know this report is for a historic period, but the RES is active in the time frame of this report. And so to not be talking about RES in the overview, to be talking about it in the threats, to be talking about it in the area of waste, recycling, water, like really glaring gaps. And similarly, no mention of what I nicknamed the landfilled as well, which is, as we know, a really pressing, massive, big ticket item for the Shire, yet there's no mention of it at all in here. There's other smaller things I'd pick up, like I wonder about the Bundara footpath work. It looks like just a list of Uralla town. I don't know whether that's not in the right reporting period, but I want us to think about the whole Shire. So it's a few things like that. And then lastly, the decline in raw sewage just stands out as looking like fantastically good news, maybe, that it's declining really dramatically, page 443, but there's no narrative about those very significant changes. So I think all of that could be improved and give a more accurate reflection of the Shire and for our stakeholders who do rely on this report. Thank you.
Now, I guess we'll wait for your email, but I would suggest that up to the middle of 2025 that the RES didn't put anything in our waste facilities, had their own water supply, so it's probably not impacted, but worth commenting on. Thank you. Councillor Arnold?
Yeah, mine's more a general comment, and it links back as well to the plans of management and this report on the state of the environment. The question in my mind is, who is this for? And given that there are a significant number of community that are interested in this, but the level of detail about that Councillor Blakes is asking about, while I understand the need for that, it feels like an insurmountable workload to get to that level of detail when this is information, excuse me, and work that is being given to us for I'm not sure what reason. And it feels like that the resourcing that we have to carry out these pieces of work doesn't match with the expectation that people might have and the people who receive these reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the Deputy Mayor has really summarised the challenge that we face. We have a whole range of statutory obligations and compliance responsibilities, and we don't get any more resourcing to do those. We have to work with our own staff. We're not using consultants, we're using our own staff. So these pieces of work that you've just talked about in the last two items are produced in-house, and they are extremely onerous to produce. And we have limited staff, as was noted in the previous item where there was comment from one councillor about when we should look at saying no and stopping. We can't say no to many of these responsibilities, and we don't have additional resourcing to do them. At the same time, we're juggling all of those other responsibilities we've discussed today, such as that civil works, civil construction program, and operating within the current environment that we have. And you've seen the ARIC report, which talks about some of the challenges we're facing in a whole range of operational areas. I think that the team punches above its weight collectively in delivering what it does, and I commend them for the efforts they make in this space. In respect of this particular report, it has focused on 4 key areas, and in those 4 key areas, we haven't yet seen the impact of the RES on those key areas. We will, absolutely, without a doubt, see the impact of the RES in terms of waste. As you know, we're working closely with our state partners in Energy Co in looking at plans for how that waste impact can be managed into the future. We're also working closely with neighbouring councils on how the water impact and the water demand can be managed into the future, while at the same time planning for appropriate infrastructure and transport outcomes with Energy Co and developers. So going forward, you would see a lot more in such a report about those impacts. At this time, it's still in the planning space. That's probably what I'd say about these matters. And we're not able to deliver as sophisticated, perhaps, publications as some larger councils, but certainly our staff are committed to providing the data and information they have available and reporting on the key drivers for our current programs. And we will see much more in this space in the future. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Arnold's comment, and in looking at page 78 under the performance measures, it says the State of the Environment report contributes to Council's end-term reporting under the integrated IPNR framework and informs future environmental planning and decision making. And I also agree with Councillor Blakester that we need to include the res, but I realise that the timing, 2022 to 25, it's of minimal impact, but maybe just mention it there. I think that's what we're saying. It just needs to be considered in the wording there, and especially if it informs future environmental planning and decision making, like it's important. It's going to be such a major impactor for us for the future.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Mallon, sorry.
Page 421 in the report, it's title 17. Says during the 2020 drought event, and it refers to, that's paragraph 3 on that page, and then paragraph 4 refers to the 2020 drought. I'd much prefer it to be the 2019 drought rather than the 2020 drought. The drought actually broke in 2020.
Okay, councillors, I have moved by Councillor Burrows. A seconder, please. Councillor Mailer. The council receives the draft State of the Environment Report 2022-25. 2, places the draft report on public exhibition for a period of 28 days. 3, receives a further report following the exhibition period should submissions be received. And 4, authorises the General Manager to finalise the report for publication should no submissions requiring amendment be received. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, through you. Very good question, councillor. I've madly taken notes. We've got the tape, which I propose we'll go back and listen to at staff level. We'll pull out everything we think you've said. We will probably pitch that back to you via an email and say, is there anything else we've missed? That might be the process for this one.
Love your work. Thank you very much. That would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Mr Drake. I would have said almost exactly the same. No.
Sure you would, Mr Mayor. I'll word for you.
If you want to move, Councillor Doran, that we have a 10-minute break, then the seconder for the...
I'd like to move that we have a 10-minute break if anyone else is interested.
Happy? We got a seconder? Councillor Burrows, all those in favour?
We're in.
Dinners can be served. Thank you. I'll go back and try that again. Sorry. Recommendation: the council endorses the draft Uralla Renewable Energy Action Plan for public exhibition for a period of 28 days until receives a future report following the exhibition period, summarising submissions and recommending any final amendments prior to adoption. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Mailer. Thank you. Questions, councillors? All right. If there are no questions, councillor, I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Burrows. All those in favour, councillors? Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Blakes, are you making noises that I don't understand?
Yeah, well, I guess we're going out of public exhibition, so I'll just drop on an email. There's just a couple of things like temporary workers. It's 1,500 on page 448, but 2,919 on page 462, and then population plummets to 6,000. And then jumps back up to 6,047. There's various things like that.
Thank you.
The main concern I wanted to flag was just page 471. I think the statement about effective coordination across government industry service will ensure infrastructure upgrades are planned in the right locations and sequence at the right time. I think that's a very confident assertion that I would tone down. But I'll put this on email. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Noting all that, councillors move. Councillor Mailer, seconded Councillor Burrows, that council endorses the draft Uralla Renewable Energy Action Plan for public exhibition for a period of 28 days, and 2, receives a future report following the exhibition period, summarising submissions and recommending any final amendments prior to adoption. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Councillor.
A quick question, if I may, and it doesn't matter that it's after that's been adopted. So, what are they called? Next Economy have produced this document. If any things that we feedback or whatever we might provide, we're not going to actually. They're not going to change their document. Isn't it just like it is what it is? I feel like there's really.
Mayor, just to provide some clarification, our senior strategic planner has worked closely with the Next Economy in finalising this plan, this draft plan, noting it's in draft form, and certainly has worked with them on the final draft that's in front of you. And there's the exhibition period is genuine. We want to have feedback from community and councillors, and that will be fed into a further revision of the plan as required. And I'm sure that Ms Sims would confirm that would be the intention, although we've dealt with this one.
I actually really appreciate that, because I just thought, don't even bother commenting. They're not going to change anything, which has been kind of the past sense.
Let's be really clear.
But that's just my question. So
at the end of the day, it's our plan. So we thank and thank the work that Emily's been doing with the consultants. All those in favour? Now I've got to do it again. There, thank you.
Well, thank you. I think, Mr Mayor, I might just commend the Senior Strategic Planner on a 12-month really big project that's been really important for Uralla to have their say about this, the strategic direction that Council is going forward with in respect of the renewable energy development zone. So I think it's really important, and it's not over. We still want to hear from them. Thank you.
Okay, so there are a couple of things out of that. One, it has made discussions in the last 6 weeks a lot easier now that Council has resolved a position and the strategy around these items, so that there's no misunderstanding amongst those that would encourage that to happen. The second thing I would comment, Council, as it was pointed out to me during the meal break, that the preschool, so 5 Hill Street, is paying development application fees. What they're not paying is that contribution under 712. So I apologise for that. And the third part about it is the staffing levels are determined by the Department of Communities and Justice. So while they might have commented that they won't have extra staff, that's a matter for the state government departments, not a matter for council. Sorry. No. Okay, councillors, loans as of the 28th of February 2026. The recommendation of council notes the total loan position as of the 28th of February 2026 is 1,062,780. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Blakester, the seconder. Oh, sorry, I should ask if there are any questions first. Any questions? Seconded, Councillor Burrows, you happy with that? All those in favour? Thank you. We will advertise when we get under $1 million, I can tell you. It's been a long road. Councillors, the investments as of the item 13.9, investments of the 28th of February 2026. The council recommendation of council notes the cash position as of the 28th of February 2026 consisting of cash and overnight funds of 4,038,513, term deposits of 21 million, total cash and term deposits amount of 25,038,513 as of the 28th of February 2026, and two restrictions are reconciled on a quarterly basis. As of the 31st of December 2025, total cash and investments were $24,380,827, comprising of $17,906,150 in external restrictions and $4,985,028 in internal restrictions, leaving an unrestricted balance of $1,112,649. This compares with an unrestricted cash balance of $2,644,164 as of the 30th of September 2025. So somebody to move that, please. Councillor Blakester. General Manager, would you like to comment where we're up to with the Reconstruction Authority, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it might be we could have maybe a more detailed conversation around that in the next item when we get to the financial report for the month of February, and the CFO is here to answer that question. But certainly, this report just shows the investment balance and the movement in the last month, as reported in since the January report. So, for your consideration.
Thank you. The other issue, and it was raised previously, so again, an item for the CFO to keep his eye on was the Regional Australia Bank deposit rate. So, but I'm sure he keeps an eye on our best value that we get. So, thank you. Councillors, I have moved Councillor Blakester a seconder, please. Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Item 13.10, monthly finance report for February 2026. The council receives the attached monthly finance report for February 2026. Madam Manager, would you like to ask the CFO for that comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, that question around the reimbursement of the funds that we're expecting from Reconstruction Authority for the snowstorm event is part of the discussion that we're happy to have with you tonight. We're still awaiting those funds, and we are not alone in that situation. Many councils are awaiting those funds, and we continue to advocate for payment of those funds. We do note that there was a transition of responsibility for payment of the funds from Transport to the Reconstruction Authority, and I understand that that's been part of the conversation that the Director Infrastructure has been having with the RA. We do keep in touch, but we don't have a further update on that for you at this time, Mr. Mayor. So it is still something that we're carrying in this financial year. We remain optimistic, but I wouldn't say that there's any guarantee that we'll have that payment before the end of the financial year. The Director may have further comment on that. He may have had further conversations with RA in the last few days and have something further to add. But otherwise, as soon as we hear something, we'd certainly share it with Council.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. There's a power of work on a daily basis going on. There are 3 major sources of friction at the moment. One's the emergency works for the snowstorm. The other two are the IWCM project and the groundwater project. I got advice late today. We've been invited to submit an invoice for the IWCM project, which will see some money flowing in from that. All of these projects, we've spent money, and we're waiting on payments to fill out the hole that's created. It's taking a long time. There's been a significant interesting advance that I haven't yet got the final information on, but councillors would know the emergency works payments that currently owe us about $1.6 million for the snowstorm. They were previously, for the last decade, administered by Transport for New South Wales. 2 days before the snowstorm, Transport for New South Wales handed that responsibility over to Reconstruction New South Wales, who were not geared up to deal with that new task. They've built their building capacity, and they're still building capacity. But along with that handover was about a 3-year backlog of payments that have been claimed and not paid by Transport. So there's a huge amount of work sitting on Reconstruction's desk. We have managed to get them to prioritise our claims over the snowstorm a commitment from them to prioritise our claims based on our very delicate financial position as opposed to others. And so that's still in process. We were advised late today, but I haven't seen it in writing, that they have agreed across the board, not just for us but for all parties, to reduce the necessity to provide some of the supporting data they were requiring to for the veracity of claims. And they were things like pictures of the washed away road before the incident and then after the incident. Well, we've got 900 kilometres of road and we don't have photographs of every 10 feet of it. Those sorts of things. So they're reducing, they've given us advice that they are now willing to reduce that requirement, which will see us being able to clear the claims a bit more quickly than we would have otherwise. I don't have any time frame. The Mayor has asked me for his meeting in Sydney on Thursday to provide him with a briefing note on all of this so that he can raise it formally with the Minister. And I'll be doing that in the next 24 hours with the Mayor's permission. If he's happy with that briefing note, I may release it to all councillors as an update.
I think it's fair to say we have been nice, and that's sort of putting us in a difficult spot. So, but thank you for that. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Blackstone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from that discussion, can I ask, I've got a few other questions, but just to conclude this one, can the council get any indication of where we are at in terms of unrestricted funds and how tight is that cash situation getting to? It's something that the chair of ARIC is aware of because this was already becoming clearly a challenge at the time of the last ARIC meeting. And I'm mindful of the complexities of what options might be available to us if we indeed deplete the unrestricted general funds in totality. So, yeah, can any indication be given as to how tight that is at the moment, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We certainly are monitoring the unrestricted cash funds, and the council receives that monthly report, which you've just received, which shows us the investments as at the 28th of February, and you'll see the summary of restricted and unrestricted funds in that. There's, as you can see, the unrestricted balance as at the end of February was reduced. End of December, because of those expenditure items. with the monthly report, I believe that the CFO will be able to provide us an update on that figure, and it'll certainly be reported next time. May I ask the CFO to comment?
Thank you. I'm taking this on notice. I can give you the estimate. Normally we do the reconciliation on a quarterly basis, but surely we can give some indication as of 28th of February. Thank you.
I understand that's our standing work protocol. I know it has work force implications, staff hours. Every business I've ever been in that is flying this close to the wind, you're doing cash reconciliations every day or every week. We don't want to fall on the wrong side of zero. So just a couple other questions, if I may. I note positively the strong financial performance of McMoores based on the figures there, attachment 499. The TCS shortfall, I wondered if anything more could be said about there's the implications that are mapped out there. But what's not clear to me is that shortfall of 97,000 that's reported here. How long a period of time has that shortfall manifested? Is that a month, 2 months, 8 months? And then what is the balance of the $450,000 shortfall? So looking at user charges and fees on page 498, it's about 450,000 short of the proportionate budget. 97,000 of that 450,000 is explained as TCS. But also, my second question is what the balance of that variance is, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the explanation, when we set the budget, there was a lot of unknowns about what that was going to look like. So that was our best guess. I have been keeping track of how we've been performing. So the biggest impact on our budget has been the change from HCP to support at home. We tried to model what we thought that might look like. I've now got 4 months of claims that have been approved and money that's been received. So to give the councillors an idea of the change in cash flow from support at home by itself, in the month of July, we received $169,530.19. In August, we received $137,972.17. In September, we received $173,872.20. In October, we received $155,113.07. Then in November, that's when support at home commenced. So for November 2025, we received $96,488.41. So there was about a $60,000 difference in terms of revenue for that month. In December, it increased to $317.48. In January, it increased to $108,503.80. And then in February, because that was a shorter month, it was $106,771.96. So there's been a considerable drop in revenue of anywhere between 31,000 to 41,000, roughly. Or I'd say, 49,000. There's two factors for that. So from 1 July, we increased our prices to what we were expecting for support at home, but we didn't remove the 35% for package management and care management. So councillors might recall me talking about that sugar hit that we received at that time. And I was expecting a drop-off of revenue from 1 November, didn't know what that was going to look like. Now we know. The $97,000 difference, that doesn't include a thin market grant of $53,000 that we're waiting to receive from the government, so that would shorten that to around about $40,000. I've asked finance to model what that projected going forward would look like with everything travelling the same way it is. That might look like $150,000 difference at the end of the year. However, there's a report I'm bringing to council next month. I didn't bring it this month because I needed to confirm some numbers, but we will probably talk about this in closed session. But there is some restricted funds left over from the agreement that we have with Transport for New South Wales, which I think we can use to supplement operations in transport, which in turn can then supplement operations. So I think there's going to be a way where I can break even this year. Then I've been working closely with finance in terms of what we need to do to return to a surplus for next year. So I've done a very overarching budget, what we will need to do, and we're starting discussions with clients, and I'm just flagging this as something which we'll have to talk to clients about and more broadly. But we would have to look at a 10% increase in our prices to make that sustainable. There's a recent report that came out from Stuart Brown, which was done on behalf of the department, where they scraped all the data off My Aged Care because we're now required to put all of our hourly fees up there. Interestingly, the average fee now is actually 10% higher than where we've set our fees, or a little bit more. So we'd only be looking about 10%. There is at the moment, it's a non-reoccurring in-market grant, which seems to be offered up every 3 months, which can go some way to supplementing that. In short, it looks like we're going to have a budget that's going to have a small surplus next year with a fallback position of some restricted funds for community transport, which I'll bring to the next council meeting. So the budget that you will see, which will be brought to councillors in the future, is going to be modelled on the new state of play from November onwards. I'm probably going to discount November, December, January, because November was probably an underclaim due to new systems and difficulty in making claims. We weren't actually able to lodge our claims until January because of the problems that they had with Proda. But looking at February, March and April, that'll probably give us a really good model going forwards. In addition, we're predicting, we've come up with an average cost for our level 2 packages. We've definitely got another 10 packages on the way. So I think with a combination of a price increase, the increase of the conservative increase in the number of packages that we're going to manage, that's going to lead, I think, to a surplus. But it is something that we're really looking closely at, and I've been working really, really closely with finance because it is something that I am very, very invested in, and I want to make sure that we're going to succeed. So whilst that figure looks scary, it's in part because I had to pick a number out of the air when we were doing this before we even knew what the consequences were going to be. And the main reason why we're actually not in a $450,000 deficit is because we've made huge savings on staff costs. So that's why we've got a 400. We've missed the mark 450,000 on what we rejected for HCP/support at home, but we've made significant savings elsewhere in the business. So I'll probably talk a bit more with this when I bring a report to council next month on this additional money that I'm alluding to, and we can go through that in a bit more detail to give councillors a bit more comfort.
Councillor O'Connor.
Mr Mayor, my follow-up question, thanks to you for the detailed rationale of the difference between, the $300,000 difference in user charges. But my question will be, and I'd like when you're presenting to us, what effect that has and how much of that is the materials and services costs, which have also dropped by $300,000. How much of that reduction of income has been offset by a reduction of services purchased? Because, it's easy to see $300,000 and you've identified it. But when there's a $300,000 difference drop in materials and services, if they're all related to that, then the balance of the budget is there, right? If it's not, then we need to look at what the difference is. So that's what I would be looking for, is the balance of both, rather than just the reduction of one. Thank you.
Council, is remiss of me, I didn't actually have a mover for that. There said to be,
No, you didn't have a meeting.
anyway, sorry. Post dinner. And a seconder, please. Councillor Burrows. Sorry, Councillor O'Connor, you said you moved it.
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. Sorry, Councillor Blaze. All right. So we have moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded Councillor Burrows. The council receives the attached monthly finance report for February 2026. And thank you very much, Group Manager. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillors, item 1311, register.
Thank you,
Just,
CFO.
yeah, thanks very much. Item 1311, register of resolutions action status as of the 18th of March 2026. The recommendation of council notes the resolution action status report as of 18th of March 2026. Somebody prepared to move that? Councillor Doran, thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Doran.
Thank you, and thank you to the group manager for the good verbal update of the TCS&T. I just want to say that, and I'm just looking at a couple of other sort of updates that I'm hoping for, and possibly they could come to the next council meeting. So on page 501, I think it is, the sewer and water debtors in arrears report. I note that there is a fair bit of sort of update there for the 18th of March sort of comments, but I'm wondering if we could get a full sort of, so this item, this resolution item was actually from May last year, so I'm kind of thinking it might be good to have a full proper update on it when that would be available, please. And similarly for 502, so yeah, the review of council's community services, so I note that that'll come through to the next, which would be great. So they were just two I was thinking it'd be good to have a more fulsome sort of update on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So councillors, you might recall that there was a lag in the recovery of outstanding rates and water debts, and that report that was brought to you last year covered that and detailed the process, which is our debt recovery process, and the debt recovery policy is being followed. So this particular item remained open because there was, we were talking about a future report on the smart meter rollout. So we have provided a report on the ongoing debt recovery. We can certainly provide a further update, noting that what we've been dealing with is the backlog and the outstanding water bills related to the change in the approach to meter reading. So that's where we had, I suppose, a bit of work to do to make sure that we were confident with the bills that we'd sent out. The Director Infrastructure has done a great job in working with the team to review those remaining disputed accounts, and you'll see that that's what this update is about. And the remaining accounts are going through the process. So where the outstanding debt triggers the debt recovery process, that's happening. Where it's a reminder notice or a second notice, that's happening. So rest assured that that process is underway. But I certainly would like to be able to close this matter off, and we can certainly prepare a future report on the progress we made over the 12 months and where we're sitting with those. There was another item on that resolution, which is something we haven't been able to implement, which is the report on the rollout of the smart meters. And we haven't been in a position to be able to do that at this stage. So that's really why that's sitting there. I'm not sure if we can provide you an update on that at a future meeting, but it is subject to funding, of course, and also enabling infrastructure to be able to work those smart meters. We were monitoring the Armidale Council's trial of those meters, so that would also be a factor in bringing that report forward.
Sorry, just further to that, like item 3 says, a future report will be prepared on the proposed. So it kind of doesn't say, you know, it's definitely got to go ahead. It's just providing that update. So in doing that would cover that off, I kind of feel.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions, please? Councillor Blakester.
I think, Mr. Mayor, two questions and a comment. The two questions, I just wondered if any further update could be provided with regard to Homes North and the status of the HAF funding, whether there's any further development on that subsequent to the reports, and similarly, if any update could be given regarding the current tenders for putrescible and green waste collection services. Just, I know they're still open, but I'm just so mindful of how important they are and the challenges in the market. They're my two questions, and then I've got a comment.
Mr. Mayor, the Director can respond to the tender matter and the putrescibles issue, but I think Ms Sims will be able to give you an update on where we're at with the HAF program, but some of that might be, we might not be able to reveal all that information.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks. Well, the EOI was submitted by the deadline last week for the HAF, and now we are waiting to see whether or not the application will be progressed to the application stage. It turned out that the EOI was in fact a much bigger application than Homes North had anticipated. We had initial concept designs to support that application. As you know, Councillor Blakester, we are intending to hold the first Project Advisory Committee meeting in the coming weeks, and at that meeting we'll be able to present a lot more information about where the HAF round is up to, because Homes North will be there.
I'll hand over to the Group Manager, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the red and green bin waste contract is out to the market. We've had a request that they could extend the deadline by 2 weeks, which we were supportive of. We have extended our 6 monthly, we had a month by month contract in hand, so we extended it out to 6 months just to give clarity to our contractor that is currently doing the work, so they've got 6 months that they can forecast. We're not just going to pull this rug out from next month. So that's good, but that's out to the market. The exact date I'm not sure, but I'm fairly 90% sure it is Friday next week. The yellow bin contract is currently with our legal representatives for review of the contract to make sure it is acceptable. There are a lot of pitfalls with a contract like this, and of course it's a 10-year contract, so it's a fairly long period of time. You don't want to make a mistake and get that wrong. So that's with the same legal representatives that we used for our previous one, so high level. And we're expecting comments back next week that we can start going back and forth. I think we'll probably miss the deadline for financial year for that to start with, but we're working as fast as we can with that one. We want to get it right.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay, I'll just add that the yellow bin contract is actually a combined pick-up and transport and process contract, which is a major change from what we're currently been doing.
Thank you. And then my comment is with respect to the Barry Mondays Reserve, and substantively that being about a meeting place out there in Invergowrie and Somers. And I just wanted to update staff and the council. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with David Moffat, one of probably the key family members involved with the Invergowrie station. And you might recall that I relayed that David had said perhaps their facility could be hired by council on an ad hoc basis for community gatherings. So I had a look at the existing facility, not the new one. They're going to build underground, the 400 square metre underground museum. that'll be something of a whole other level, I think. But just the existing, what I would call an outdoor meeting place facility, but it's a sheltered, open shelter. You can see it when you drive past on the road. There's a 40-foot shipping container and a 20-foot shipping container that frame that building internally. They're climate-controlled archival rooms where they've got family history documented and are in the process of fully digitising all that. It's impressive. I guess when you're the chair of the Australia-US Chamber of Commerce, you've got a bit of coin to throw at projects like this. But that existing facility has everything to handle up to 200 people. Dishwashers, crockery, toilets, you name it. And so I just want to mention that I think that's an idea worth exploring. It's got complexities to it as opposed to something that we own that is public, but there's obviously complexities with Burry Monday's Reserve, the Aboriginal land claim being one, but also the fact that it's not, I mean, every other Invergarian that I discuss this with, they're like, over there. So, you know, people look at the shop, obviously enough, but there's no space there. But right next door to the shop, here's this facility that perhaps we'd have to explore all of the nuance of that, like it'd be a hire arrangement. I think David Moffat very intentionally is saying, well, maybe we could have an arrangement where council hired that. I doubt he has any interest in making it available to just a scrum of community members coming in. It's a family place, but it could serve the purpose, and I think an outdoor space like that is much more suitable. It's obviously weather dependent, but with young kids and families, outdoor is just so much easier than trying to cram into a hall, a fire shed or something like that. So I just want to relay that as a parallel opportunity. I'll keep liaising with David.
Thank you for that. And it is, I agree, it's the correct size site. And if Mr. Moffat could work with council, we're more than happy. Okay, if there's no other questions, have I got a seconder, please? I have Councillor Doran moved, Councillor Mailer. The council notes the resolution actions status report is the 18th of March 2026. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Council, we now move into closed session. Thank you, Mr. Barclay. Yeah, we're going to close the meeting, but thank you.
We'll need a move on this.
Yes, I know. I just, when I move, I'm just going to Barclay or. Okay, so councillors, I'll need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Phil, thank you. Move us into closed session. All those in favour? All right, thank you, councillors. Thank you, councillors. Item 14.1, the provision of general insurance. Recommendation moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded Councillor Phelps, that council accepts a proposal from Civic Risk Mutual and proceeds to A, become a council member of the Civic Risk Mutual, and B, obtain insurance cover through Civic Risk Mutual commencing on from 2026-27 financial year. Moved unanimously, and the meeting closed at 7:17. Thank you very much, councillors, staff, and it is an excellent report. Thank you very much.